When my son brought his fiancée home, I was thrilled to meet the woman who'd stolen his heart. But the moment I saw her face, my excitement was gone. I already knew her, and soon I had her locked in my basement. Get a cup of coffee and settle down, because this story is inspiring from start to finish. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories. The urge to protect your child never goes away. I'm a mother in her 50s, living in a quiet suburban neighborhood with my husband, Nathan. We've been married for over 25 years, and we have one son, Xavier, who's the light of our lives. He's 22 now and almost out of college. Although he moved away years ago, we're still a close-knit family. At least, I thought so until a few weeks ago, when Xavier shocked us with one phone call. It was a normal Tuesday evening. Nathan and I were in the living room, half watching TV and half dozing off, when the phone rang. "Mom, Dad, I got some big news." Xavier boomed through the line. "I've met someone. Her name's Danielle, and she's amazing. We've been dating for 3 months," and he paused dramatically. "I proposed, and she said yes." I couldn't speak for a second. There was a lot to process. Woman, 3 months. Proposed? Wait, you're engaged? I asked, glancing at my husband, whose jaw was practically on the floor. "Yup, I wanted to tell you sooner, but Danielle's pretty shy. She wasn't ready to meet you guys until now, but I convinced her. Can we come over this weekend for dinner?" "Of course," I said, though my mind was already racing with worries and only a little bit of excitement. Xavier hadn't mentioned a single girlfriend during his 4 years at college. No stories about dates, no pictures, nothing. Now he was engaged after dating for only a couple of months. That was insane. After we hung up, I spoke to my husband. "What do we know about her?" I asked Nathan as we tidied up the house in preparation for the weekend. "Where's she from? What does she do?" "Sweets, you heard the same things I heard," Nathan smiled at me. "Maybe he's just smitten. You know how young love is." That didn't ease my nerves. I tried calling Xavier the next day to ask more questions, but his answers were vague. "She's from around here," he said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "She's incredible, Mom. Just wait until you meet her. You'll find out all you need to know." With those words, I decided to let go of my worries for now and focus on the future. I had to prepare for this momentous event. Nathan also reminded me of the possible benefits of our son getting married, grandchildren. So when the big day arrived, I went all out. I roasted a chicken, baked a cherry pie, and set the table with our nicest dishes. Nathan splurged on some pricey steaks too. This is just in case she prefers beef to chicken. First impressions matter, right? "Of course, sweets," I told him. "Wait, do you think I should make another dessert in case she doesn't like cherry pie?" We spent all morning like that. Nathan even mowed the lawn, although I had no idea how that would be helpful. But it got us even more excited. By the time the doorbell rang, we couldn't contain our smiles. We must have looked like two people in a horror movie, because once we opened the door, Xavier took a step back. "Welcome," I said, almost screaming. Xavier smiled tentatively and introduced us to Danielle, who was standing shyly beside him with her shoulders hunched and a small smile. She was petite, with dark hair and big eyes. Beautiful, really, and she looked good next to my son. But her face, it took only a second for me to recognize her. Still, I kept a smile plastered on my face as I welcomed them inside, but I was panicking for a very valid reason. Just a few months ago, my friend Margaret had shown me a photo of a woman who had scammed her son. He had fallen for this woman, who'd convinced him to buy her an expensive engagement ring and give her thousands of dollars for wedding expenses. Then, she disappeared without a trace. Margaret had been devastated and had shared the photo with everyone she knew, hoping someone might recognize the scammer. And now, here she was standing in my living room. Her hair was a different color, much darker, and she might be wearing blue contact lenses, but I recognized that face. And what happened next was a blur. Somehow, we sat down. I served dinner, and everyone was talking animatedly. I even answered when I could, but I couldn't stop staring at Danielle. I also checked my phone discreetly, trying to find the photo Margaret had sent. I must have erased it, that I'd have to call her later. Suddenly, Nathan coughed. He'd noticed my distraction and asked me to help him in the kitchen. "What's going on, Evangeline?" he whispered once we were alone. "That's her," I said urgently. "The scammer Margaret told us about." "I'm sure of it." "What?" "The one who broke her son's heart and stole everything." Nathan frowned, hands on his hips. "Are you positive? It could just be someone who looks like her." "I'm telling you, Nathan, it's her." I insisted. Margaret shared that photo everywhere she could for months after she disappeared. I need to do something before she hurts Xavier too. Nathan sighed but didn't argue. "Just be careful. Let's not accuse anyone without proof." When dinner ended, I come up with a plan and set it into motion. "Danielle, would you help me pick out a wine from the basement?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated but nodded. "Sure," she said, standing up. I led her downstairs, trying to be as casual as possible. Luckily, she was shy enough that conversation wasn't that important. But the moment she stepped into the dimly lit basement, I turned and locked the door behind her. My hands were shaking as I hurried back upstairs. "Nathan, call the police. Now!" Xavier shot up from his seat, brows furrowed. "Mom, what are you doing?" he demanded. "That woman is not who she says she is," I said firmly. "She's scammed people before. I'm protecting you." Xavier looked like I'd slapped him. "What? No, you're wrong. Danielle's not a scammer. She's kind, she's honest, and she's my fiancée." I ignored him and called Margaret and explained the situation. "Send me that photo of the scammer." I begged my friend and hung up. Seconds later, my phone buzzed with the image. It was her. There was no doubt in my mind. I turned my phone to my son and husband. "See? I'm not crazy." Luckily, the police arrived shortly after, and they managed to confirm I wasn't crazy. I was just wrong. Xavier went down to let Danielle out of the basement, and for some reason, she wasn't scared. She was frustrated but amused. She turned to us with a sigh. "Mr. and Mrs. Fitzpatrick, this isn't the first time someone's mistaken me for that woman," she said. "I know exactly who you're talking about. She's ruined my life, or come close to it. But she's blonde and has brown eyes, and my black hair and blue eyes are natural. I'm not her." One of the officers looked at her closely, then nodded. "I remember this case. The real scammer did use the name Danielle, but I heard she changed her name. She's now Rosalind or Rosemary, and they last traced her to Mexico, so she's out of this state's jurisdiction. It's hard to tell if they'll ever catch her, but this is not her." My jaw dropped. I was relieved, yet so ashamed. "Oh my God! I'm so sorry," I stammered. To my surprise, Danielle smiled fully and then chuckled. "Well, that was an interesting way to meet my future in-laws," she joked. "At least I got to pick out a wine." And she had great taste too, because the bottle she had grabbed was one of the most expensive. Her words made me laugh, and the tension broke easily. Xavier hugged her, clearly relieved and so in love. "I told you she wasn't like that," he said, shooting me a pointed look. That night ended with apologies and a fresh start. Over time, I got to know Danielle and saw how much she truly loved Xavier. She was warm, funny, and an incredibly talented pastry chef who even made her own wedding cake. As for me, I learned a lesson about jumping to conclusions. While I'm still protective of Xavier, I'm learning to trust his choices. And now, we have a family story we'll never forget, though I doubt Danielle will let me live it down anytime soon.